Thank you for the invitation. So I will give you some information about Jupyter. I think this can work as well, which is fine for me. So I hope you can hear me. Jupyter, state of matters, and really all of them. So I will not just tell you how the system at the end will look like, but I will also show you some funny things about the campus. I have way too many slides, so in case you want to leave for a coffee, feel free. And I might rush through some of the slides. That's intention. All right. As an introduction, I guess all of you know the Forschungszentrum Jülich. It's a nice campus in the middle of nowhere, with at the end the JSC in multiple different buildings, with an old data center in gray and a new data center in white. Still not sufficient for exascale. 300 employees at the Jülich Supercomputing Center. The whole campus has more than 5,000, or significantly more. 2/3 of our employees are scientists. And well, that about the JSC. Where I'm from, that's our division, as Sohail just said. So we are responsible for operating all our main HPC systems, storage systems, and also cloud infrastructure. I think all of you know HPC systems. You also, I think, know exascale, so 1 million times 1 million operations per second. In our definition, really floating point 64 and really per second. So when we started that journey, we knew that our data center is not sufficient. We knew that our data center and the whole campus does not have enough electricity. The power line is not strong enough. And well, at the end, we knew that our physical resources are quite limited, right? So in addition to Jupyter, the system as a whole, which is an interesting thing on itself, we also had to buy a new data center, and I will show you all of that. The past, as Florian just said, a long time ago, there were plans to build something like EuroHPC. So to get some funding by the Commission at the end. I think that's the most important part for us. We knew that Germany is having lots of money and investing in HPC, yes, but we also knew it's not sufficient if we want to achieve the exascale level, right? So ideas of EuroHPC started quite early, many years ago, well, nearly 10. And I think EuroHPC was established in 2018. At the same time, on a national level, we had within the Gauss Center for Supercomputing a design phase where we said how we want to achieve exascale. Not necessarily floating point 64 exascale, but exascale for all the 3 big GCS centers. And in parallel, we had to start exploring how we have to adjust our campus because we knew that the physical requirements for electricity and all that stuff are simply too heavy for the campus as it was. At the same time, we had to do cost estimates for an exascale system and all that stuff. That was before my time, actually. Yeah, right. What then happened, EuroHPC in December 21 opened the call. So, well, if you have enough funding and if you're interested, you can say, I want to host an exascale system. You can apply. Well, we had 2 months to write an application, which was some heavy lifting because it was more like a doctoral thesis, so 8+ pages. There have been hearings where we got some bad questions, which were answered good. And at the end, we had the hosting entity decision by mid of 2021. So that was at the end the starting point, because then we knew we have the funding, so we can start. What we wanted to get, I think everyone knows, well, we had to do procurement for an exascale system, right? That means the 1 exaflop floating point 64. That was our wish, but also a hard requirement from EuroHPC. We designed systems modular or heterogeneous, call it as you like. So we, beside of a heavy scaling booster, we wanted to have a cluster module with a high byte per flop ratio. We have the flash storage as part of the procurement, and an overall invest budget of 273 million euros. The overall project budget is 5 million euros. When you render that, those requirements to a document, it's, well, in the web, not looking super sophisticating, so it's rather a dry topic, I would say. So this was published then. and we had to do procurement, which was then done in 2023. So we really started in January 2023 with the procurement, and well, we went through most of it until the middle of the year in July. At the end, with the betting companies, and then we had the final contract signature at the beginning of October 2023. So it was a rather ambitious timeline, but overall it worked. And as I again think most of you know, it was publicly announced who is the winning consortium for Jupiter, which is the Vieth Supercomputer Consortium. I think both are sponsors of the event. So thank you for the salad and the drinks, and for the nice machine. So Jupiter, Vieth Supercomputer Consortium, both companies are responsible for delivering the hardware and together with us installing the software of the system, and at the end providing it to users and well, fix problems and usual HPC operation stuff. Jupiter itself, of course, the target was met. So 1 exaflop LinPack performance, 70 plus exaflop in lower precision. So we say 70 plus because that depends on how much power you give to the system. NVIDIA says 93, 94, but at the end the power is kept. So let's say plus 70. We have the cluster module. Again, the byte per flop ratio is 0.4 roughly. We have InfiniBand interconnect with NDR and well, a flash storage. In addition, and that's I think interesting, the system during LinPack should consume 17 megawatts, which is I think less than the 2 competitors which are there in the list already, so in the top 500 list. And well, direct liquid cooling was a hard requirement for us. Yeah. How is 1 exaflop looking like? For us, it's 125 racks, Bulldog 83,000, roughly 6,000 nodes, a few less, but all that depends on the final acceptance. So the number is not written in stone yet. We have 24,000 NVIDIA Grace Hopper super chips in the system per node. And well, all those details on memory, I guess these slides are shared. So in case you're interested, you find all those details on our webpage or in the web. I think what's important for Jupiter, it's a Hopper-based system, so no Blackwell because it was too early. Phrase it that way, but it's not the classical H100 and not the H200. It's somewhere in the middle, but definitely a nice Hopper-based system. The compute node, and again, more detail, looks like this, but I think that's too many details. The only important thing here, you see it really on the top in red. Pointer, but great. Here, 680 watts, which is for us, we have power capping on the system. You could, in theory, run it with 1000, then you achieve the 90 plus exaflop AI performance, but the system is capped. Beside of that, yeah, Grace is based on an ARM processor. Again, Hopper, a very specific version of Hopper, and well, lots of details on this slide. For the cluster, it's based on a Cypher processor, on the rare processor from the company Cypher, which is at the end the result of the EPI project. So it was important for us to get the first incarnation of the European processor into the system. It's again an ARM-based processor with an older version than Grace, but still hopefully sufficiently fast. And the processor has HBM, so because of that, it has a high byte per flop ratio. With respect to storage, we bought 30 petabytes of flash storage from IBM, SSL 6000 system with more than 2 terabytes of per second bandwidth. Again, all the details, I think you can take a look at afterwards. The interconnect is very, very large Dragonfly Plus topology. All what you see in green is the 6,000 booster nodes. In blue, you have the small cluster, which has significantly less bandwidth to all the other nodes, for sure. Not the highly scalable part of the system, but at the same time, the cluster has internally full fat free. So within the cluster, you again have a very high network bandwidth. This is how one group looks like, but I think not very interesting. With respect to managing the system, we, well, at the moment have a quite heavy task to do, because overall we have to integrate all those software components. I think for actual users of the system, what's most important is that the system will be based on Slurm, as I think most of you know it, and it will provide easy build modules for your software. And I think most of the remaining parts are mostly internal, so not really interesting for the audience. All right, so this is how Jupyter looks like. To make sure that we address during the procurement already user requirements, we took a look for the procurement on our current user communities. So as you can see, we have many of them. There are hotspots in the user communities, but we have many. So it's not like in the US where you really have a lab with a clear focus. It's a multi-purpose system. So it was quite hard to design it at the end to match all the requirements. But we tried to do that, and what we identified, we tried to use for benchmarks. At the end, for the procurement, we had a quite long list of benchmarks. Again, I don't plan to go into the details here. The only thing you can take from that slide is we tried to spread the benchmarks across all or most of the different user communities. We initially wanted to have more benchmarks to make sure that we have a better measure of the system quality, but we were limited by the vendors, which complained too many, and by EuroHPC, they also complained too many. So at the end, that's the list, the large list. What was important for us is that we make sure that the system is not only providing one exaflop for the impact, but really for application. So during the procurement, we identified in preparation of the benchmarks, or benchmark user application benchmarks, that we have applications that can scale up to one exaflop. And we identified 5 of them. And at the end, the companies which did a bid for Jupyter had to commit to performance numbers for those 5 benchmarks at an exascale level. So it's not like run on 1 node, run on 8 nodes, run on 60 nodes or 256, but really on the full machine. So I think that's important takeaway. Well, and in addition, you have the classical synthetical benchmarks, which you usually have. So that about users during the procurement. I think beside of that, what we have already now is, well, we run the benchmarks from the procurement already on existing Grace Hopper nodes we have, and we see, well, at the end, good results for our version of the Hopper GPU at the end. So that's good. And here are just some random results. So we see real scale up across different applications. Users, not during the procurement, but in the future, as I guess Mattis showed you yesterday, or at least to a few of you, we have the Jupyter Research and Early Access Program. So that's our way to make sure we can use the system actually before the installation, because you can apply for Jupyter right now and can already use a beta system, but then also scale during the application of Jupyter. I think you can still try to participate in URIP if you write an email or go to that webpage. So feel free. The current status is shown here. So we are still on the left side on the, well, we are not really in the first half of 2024, but formally, I think we are still in that phase, and we should enter the gray box in the middle quite soon. I think now it's a matter of days or 2 weeks rather than months. Yeah, so URIP is still open for applications. If you are interested, take a look on the slides, take a look on our webpage, and contact us. So, yeah, beside of that, be present. As I said, Jupyter is not only a system, it's also a data center, storage, and lots of other stuff. So we have a quite interesting time at JSC. Well, when the procurement was done in, let's say, October, we had to do yet another procurement for the storage system. I showed you the flash storage, but in fact, 30 petabyte is not enough for user data. So we had to procure the whole storage for your user data, so the home project data file systems. So a procurement needs to be done. Again, identifying IBM as the hardware provider with more than 300 petabytes of raw disk capacity, so 200 petabytes usable capacity, with all those details, which well, do not matter as long as you don't plan to use the system. In addition to that, we had to do a procurement of a data center. As I told you, we identified that our current data center is not sufficient, so we needed a new one. We planned a new data center from scratch, but then at the end, well, we had a war somewhere very close to Europe, or in Europe, someone would say. So that let the building prices explode. So at the end, what we got with our planned procurement for the data center, which was before that point in time, was we cannot afford the data center. So procure modular data center based on containers. Here are the main facts. So with 2,300 square meters, we have container building planned, which is also modular. So Jupyter is installed in containers, will be shipped in containers, and then you can simply, in theory, expand the system or replace part of the system on container level. Yeah, and right, what you see there is simply some information on the well, power providing system and all that stuff. Mostly infrastructure needs to be procured. And at the end, it hopefully will look like this one. We will see. If I have containers in mind, they usually look quite ugly. What you see here is the container data center, but also a large gray area, which you need in case you want to place a modular data center, right? So we had to also create the foundation for the modular data center. On the campus, which you saw at the beginning, it's placed where the red arrow is, so next to the two JSC buildings. And during the course of the winter, it somewhat looked like this one. So at the end, at the beginning, lots of mud, then a few times snow, and then it started to be interesting. How it looks like really at this point in time, partially wrong. This is how it looks like, 85 times 42 meters, I think. We started to bring containers to this lab, but not the final Jupyter containers, more the containers for the building company. Right, but this is still not sufficient. So at the end, you need electricity. And for that, the whole Forschungszentrum campus needed more or stronger transformator station, right? So we got an upgrade. This is usually what you don't have at home. So what you see here is one of the two new transformator stations for redundancy with 2 times 680 MVA, so 2 times 80 megawatts, more than sufficient, but before it was not sufficient, right? So all that happened, so new transformator stations and new power lines. That was the funny thing. So yeah, the Forschungszentrum campus needed new power lines. So I think everyone in Jülich knows that, because most of the streets got closed at some point just because of that. Right, so this is about the infrastructure needed for Jupyter. But what we had in addition was the Jupyter Exascale Development Instrument, JEDI, which we submitted to the top 500 list in May, and which achieved #1 in the Green 500. So we knew that because of the MDC, or the Modular Container Data Center, Jupyter will show up on site quite late. You saw this lab, so Jupyter is still not there, but we needed a system where we can prepare for the final. So thanks to Evident, we got one full XH 3000 rack here in, it's orange. Looks like red, but it's orange. Which we got since, well, we started the installation in April, had one funny month to prepare the Green 500 run. And now we have it for our internal users, for us as system administrators, but also for the Jupyter Research and Early Access program. So this is how it looks like now. How it looked like during the Vieth 500 is slightly different. So yeah, like public relations and then reality. In addition to that, we got a large installation in the Evident factory in Angers. So what is installed there at this point in time is really the whole management plane of Jupyter, as well as 10 racks. So not only one Jedi, but 10 racks. This is at the end for preparation of benchmarks, stabilizing the hardware, because we are the first Evident customer with those blades, but also to prepare the system management plane, because we plan to, at the end, ship it as is to Jülich, plug it in to electricity, cooling, and network, and then it will hopefully just run. At least that's the naive assumption. How realistic that is, we will see. So this is currently ongoing, and the installation started, and the system is running Linpax quite well. And now, what about the future? So we have all that. We have the slab prepared. The MDC is not there yet, but delivery started, empty containers started actually today. And the real containers with logistic area of Jupyter will show up next week. And then we will add more and more containers to the system, so that at the end of this year, we have most of the MDC available and installed. And well, yeah, Jupyter shipment start slightly delayed to the MDC shipment. And that will bring us, I think, to the beginning of next year then. How to get access to Jupyter at the end, also a future topic. So as I showed you, we needed Euro HPC for the funding, but also we have national funding. And that also implicitly means we have two ways of getting access. We have the classical Euro HPC called, which I don't know because I never had to apply for one. Linda can give you more information about that, and she might also do that during her presentation tomorrow. And in addition, we have the GCS call. So we have 50% European funding and we have 50% national funding. So the computing time is somewhat limited. For GCS, I just put slides from GCS, which, well, to be honest, I don't care about too much. It's like, as I said, we have the 3 large German centers. GCS has a very strict formal process to get access to compute time, and that's simply the same for Jupyter. You will have the possibility to get large-scale projects and just normal access. There are 2 calls a year. Starting, I think, in May and in November. So there you can apply for computing time. Yeah, right. And that's it from my side.